like, if you have a good sound guy, you can do so much. It's crazy.
Sound and lighting.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't think this is great lighting, but...
My people. I hear motorcycles.
Oh. You got Beaver Mountain in the background, dude.
It's a good view. This is a pretty sick spot. This was a good setup right here. Good call on coming up in here, too.
Live, we're in a good spot.
Okay.
We got a little bit of that window there, but we'll just roll with it.
Okay. All right.
So this is what the audio, this is what it looks like.
All right. Minor delay.
Yeah. Let me record the... All right. So, we're here with Graham Stanford. Welcome to the Lofty Lifestyles podcast. We're here with Graham Stanford. He has just such an incredible life. And, you know, he just made a face. He really... We are super fascinated to learn more about his background, a little bit about his journey, what life's going to take, you know.
Yeah. As far as background on me, I got out of high school and immediately was, not super sure. I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to that. I'm like, oh, where do I go? What do I do? And I was living up in Alaska at the time, kind of born and raised up there, but I've been down to Utah a bunch. But yeah, I kind of went into post-high school with no clue on what I was going to do, and my cousin called me up. He's like, hey, what are you doing this summer? You got anything lined up? And no, not really sure. And anyway, he's like, I know this guy that's got this lodge going out on the south end of Kodiak. Like, do you want to go out and try out guiding? Or initially it was going to be just go out and work on the grounds and, be around, and then it transitioned pretty quickly into guiding. I realized very quickly I enjoy being with people, showing them a new experience, just kind of that teacher mentality almost. There's a lot of that when you get out and get into guiding. But so Alaska, finished my first season up there, was very...
but you kind of had a cool in on Alaska too.
Yeah, so I've been born and raised up there. My dad was a bush pilot up there for 40, 50 years, something like that.
Very long lived like these two lives. You'd come back down to the lower 49.
Lower 40, yeah. So I'd kind of been back and forth a bunch of times. We had family in and around Utah. I'd been around a little bit, but the majority of my life, we had played lacrosse down here together, so the connections down in Utah were there, but not... I would definitely say my background's more in Alaska than I ever was in Utah. Just where I'm from. That's at least what I claim. It sounds cooler, I guess, when you're living in Utah. Oh, yeah, I'm from Utah. It's a little cooler to be like, oh, yeah, I'm from Alaska. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, it gets all little psyched. But yeah, so kind of hadn't been around lodges a lot my entire life, but I had never considered guiding. And actually, I have told quite a few people, coming right out of high school, if you're sitting there going, oh, I don't even know what to do in life, go find a job guiding somewhere. They are everywhere. You can get into rafting, fishing. The possibilities are endless. Any form of entertainment we as people like to do, there's someone out there that guides that. So if there's that hobby that you really like doing, go try guiding it for a season. One, it really promotes personal growth. You learn how to talk to people. You learn how to sit down and have a conversation, kind of like this. You make a lot of connections. That's the big one. For me, I focused really heavily on asking people what they did for a living. Mostly because at the time I was like, oh, I don't want to guide forever. This isn't my thing. It's fun, but it'll pass. So I asked everyone I met, hey, what do you do for a living? Because we, at the lodge in Alaska, it was on the premium end of things. So anyone up there was usually had excess money to do their job, which most of them, they liked their job, and then they had the money to still travel and go do things that they also enjoyed. So I would view that as a comfortable lifestyle. So that was kind of my whole goal the first year or two, basically my whole first season, was trying to figure out, okay, what is something I could see myself doing? I'm going to use this time to figure that out. And then I ended up staying in guiding because I liked it so much.
A long time.
Yeah, I've been guiding, maybe 7 years now.
What are you guiding?
So I started out, the lodge in Kodiak was the Kodiak Brown Bear Center. I don't know if I'm allowed to like name drop on you guys. I mean, I might as well, right? Anyway, we
Promotion for
Kodiak Brown Bear Center. It's
Exactly,
super
really?
cool.
Sponsor us.
Yeah, yes, seriously. Cognac is the name corporation who owns it, so hey, this is for Cognac, right? It's a beautiful place. The people out there were lovely. I loved every minute of the Kodiak Brown Bear Center. It was really hard to have a life outside of that, though, because you were out in the bush months and months on end. I rarely got into town while out there during the season. So, yeah, basically spent a bunch of time out there. Sorry, I blocked the wind here. Spent a bunch of time out there, and then after I finished my first season, I mean, any 18-year-old, after spending an entire 9-month stretch with no way to spend money, obviously you've got some coins saved up. I was like, here we go. The party starts now. We're going to have fun all winter long. This money's totally going to last. It took me all of 2 months to just blow every penny I had. I went and bought a car in Colorado, was bouncing all over the place. Ended up, my brother-in-law and sister were living in Utah, going to school here. So I ended up out here just kind of couch surfing, like hanging out with them. And yeah, came up to this lodge. We'd been to this lodge a couple of times in the past, and that's what really pushed me towards snow sports. The snowmobiling here is incredible, been all over the place, and I always just kept coming back here, and so asked Brian, kept poking him, bugging him a bunch, hey, hire me, like, and the day before I left to go back to Alaska, he calls me up, he's like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Heading back to Alaska. He's like, well, do you still want a job? Because I could use you now, because he had a guide get hurt, and so, well, I probably shouldn't say too much of that. Snowmobiling is incredibly safe, let me tell you. He had a guy just, hit a snowbake funny and popped his knee funny and just was out for the rest of the season. So I showed up, and it was really funny because I had guided previously. I'd done it was bear viewing at the Kodiak Brown Bear Center, and then we did a lot of
like to go see bears.
Yeah, so you walk out. The Kodiak Brown Bear, obviously, most people have heard of them. Largest, coastal brown bear. They technically, at the time, they've changed it a bunch, but at the time they were categorizing it as a subspecies of coastal brown bear, and they had just switched the whole categorization of bears, and there's grizzlies and coastal brown bears, and then they dropped it to Kodiaks. So we were out there, we would take a boat, we'd run out all over this lake, we'd go hike up to these rivers, and we'd sit on the river, and we'd have brown bears walking, within 10 feet. I've got stories of where I could have reached out and touched bears because they got so close to you, because they just start getting very comfortable, which a lot of people have heard of Timothy Treadwell. It's kind of that, that's got a sour ending, but that was also an interesting situation. But anyway, yeah, they just get very comfortable with you having that repetition daily, doing the same things every day, going to the same places at the similar time. So even when we didn't have clients, the guides would still go out and we'd hang out at the spots that we would view just to keep that consistency. Mm-hmm. And the bears just get so comfortable with the fact that there's always a person right there. They're always there. So, they get a little more and more ballsy and get closer and closer. And by the end of my time there, we had a 24-year-old female bear that she had a couple of, I'm going to call it litters of cubs. That's probably not the right term for it, but she had put a couple of cubs through, and by the end of my time there, she would come and leave them right under us, just at our feet, basically, and walk away. And which, as a guide, is kind of a scary thing, because you're like, oh my gosh, these are baby bears. All through life, you're like, oh, never get between a mother bear and her cub. But yeah, she would just come drop them off at our feet and go fish the river. And a couple of times, I can remember one specific story where I had some clients, and one of them kind of aggressively moved really fast, and it startled one of the cubs, and this cub took off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't good. And she literally just ran around the bend of the river, because she was out of sight at this point, ran around the bend of the river, didn't even really glance at us, and just kept going past us, and was looking for it would have been a boar that she was looking to fight to run off, because that's what she thinks her cubs are scared of. So yeah, it was a really interesting just ecosystem dynamic out there with the setup. It was a really cool lodge to work at. But yeah, like I said, transitioning from Kodiak to Utah, I got into the backcountry snowmobiling scene down here. So started guiding that. First season was awesome, but you're also very green. You're not 100% on, you're not, the confidence isn't there. Your first season. I would venture to guess that a lot of guides have the confidence in their riding ability, but really what you need the confidence is, you need it in understanding the area, the dangers, the elements themselves, understanding how to work with different people of different ability levels and how to best fit their day. Because at the end of the day, it's not about you, it's about what they want to do. So that's kind of an interesting thing to learn, and it was kind of hard to learn. The first year, looking back, I think I did okay, but there's so much room for improvement on even my last year. You always need to be improving your system, how you teach, how you communicate to people. A lot of times I try and avoid the word don't go over there, don't do this, don't do that, because as soon as you say it, the first thing they want to do is go do exactly what you said not to do. So just communication in general was an interesting thing to learn, and it's not a very typical just conversation like we're having now.
Right. So you went from guiding bear viewing tours to guiding snowmobile tours.
Correct.
Did you have a lot of snowmobile experience prior to coming to guide tours? Walk us through that mindset of, okay, I'm doing something a little more, I wouldn't say casual, guiding bear tours.
Yeah.
But you were experienced with that, you had your background in that, and then you come and you're guiding what is traditionally viewed as a potentially hazardous activity.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about your background.
So,
how you were able to land
I
it.
had grown up on snowmobiles. So,
Okay.
Well, from Alaska, I should probably be saying snow machines. Everyone up there is going to yell at me for that. But I've been here long enough, I can say snowmobiles. It's okay. So, I'd grown up. We would come down here a lot as kids and snowmobile actually this area.
Just for reference for everyone, we're sitting on the patio at the Beaver Creek Lodge in Logan Canyon. We'll post some there. There's incredible scenery. You can see on our live stream here off the back. You can see Beaver Mountain, which is one of the best ski resorts in the state. It's an incredible area up here. I've snowmobiled up here before, and we'll post some pretty incredible footage that we took today. We'll get into that in a little bit, but sorry to cut you off, but keep going.
No worries. Get the background. So yeah, I'd grown up snowmobiling, and I had that little bit of background in guiding at that point. So when Brian had hired me, it was kind of an easy transition for him. We kind of joke. It was like, I had known Brian, but he shook my hand, said, all right, here's your guide license, welcome, you got all your credentials that you need to do this, and don't tell me it's your first day, have fun. We definitely spend a lot of time training, but I was not there at the beginning of the season, and he had known through Nate, one of the other guides, that I had grown up snowmobiling this area. I knew where to go. I had guided before, so I think there was a little less stress for him on that front, not to make it sound bad. It's your first day, have fun, don't tell him, bye.
Speak to that a little bit more. So your first day, you kind of missed the onboarding process that the guys went through.
Yeah, we have a whole training thing that we go through right at the beginning of every season, because it's always, December 15th we open for the wintertime, and guides show up. We have about a 15-day period initially where we pretty much just train. We take guys out, we show them the area, we teach them, areas to avoid. With newer people, you can ride most of this area. It all just depends on ability level. We can get just about anywhere here, but you kind of need to understand how to ride a backcountry snowmobile, something to, the extent of side hilling, just being comfortable boondocking in general, which boondocking is just, hey, here's point A, here's point B, I want to just go there. Not staying necessarily on a trail. We have trails up here, but people get a guide to get off the trail, so we always get off the trail.
Right.
So the transition into guiding that was pretty quick for me. I cannot remember their names for the life of me. I wish I could, but my first clients, looking back, they were perfect. It was this older couple. They were so easy. It was the easiest guide I probably have ever had in my life. They just super cute, just loved the scenery of the area. So we went on a pretty easy, just jump through the woods.
Flying down. Yeah.
No, if we broke 30 miles an hour that day, I was probably just goofing off on my own and not paying attention. So that was kind of a
good ease into it.
Yeah, I couldn't have asked for an easier. And then because we were shorthanded, I don't think any of us, there's three of us guiding plus Brian, the owner, and I don't really think any of us had many days off that first year. We pretty much just worked straight, just guiding every day, working on snow machines at night, and if whatever we couldn't get done, we've got an awesome mechanic that does really good work for us that we take down to him, and so we just stayed really, really busy that first year, which is really funny because I learned very quickly the importance of good gear my first year because I went to work every single day and came home miserable. I was so wet and cold every single day because I was like, oh, I just got, snowmobile gear. I was wearing like a North Face ski jacket and just like random pants. I think they were Scott or something, just not meant for snowmobiling. And yeah, after my first season, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so brutal. Like I'm wet and cold every day. And it's like, why don't you go buy some actual snowmobile gear? And I'm like, oh, you can do that?
Amazing how that helps.
Weird. So good gear is important in the guiding industry in general, and that's any guiding position. You see your guides wearing the nice expensive stuff. It's because we wear it every day, and it's the best, and we want to be comfortable. There's no you don't go to the office and blast the AC until you're freezing cold, or turn up the heat until you're sweating.
Right. That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about work versus play. So you were out on snowmobiles guiding every day.
It's the same. Work and play. I would say the difference between work and play on snowmobiles is the people I ride with. Obviously, work, we are riding with whoever is showing up that day. As far as play, we're always trying to we're getting out with guides, getting out with other, what I would call pros in the industry, people who are at a certain ability level that are going to push you as someone who rides every day. So that is kind of an interesting, I don't even know what to call that, just an interesting setup where you're always trying to find people to ride with. I like to ride with people that are better than me because it pushes me to become a better rider. So, and you're always meeting people that are better than you. That's just part of it. Difference between a black belt and a brown belt, right? Black belt thinks they know, or brown belt thinks that they know everything there is to know about whatever your specific thing is. An actual black belt's going to realize, hey, I can learn something from anyone. So having that kind of better mentality of I'm teachable is, I think, really important. Well, not just in guiding, but in life. Let's go there.
Right. There we go. I think, really when we were talking about this show, looking a little bit into your background, obviously we knew each other a little bit growing up, and we knew you kind of were involved in this realm. But, really why we invited you on the show is because you've achieved what people really strive to get in their life is you do what you love and you make money doing it.
Every day.
I mean, that's
and you have a lot of freedom doing it.
Yeah. I do. So I think that, and this is, people can get into guiding and find this in other aspects, other sports, whatever it is you love. There's actually pretty decent money to be made in whatever industry you're in. I personally chose snowmobiles, and that's kind of where I've settled down to, and I ended up getting really heavily into the snow bike stuff, dirt bikes with track kits on them, so I really transitioned into that because I think there's really a future with those. One, snowmobiles have been around for a long time. People have been doing them for a long time, so there's always new sports that are coming into, sorry, I'm messing with these.
Oh, you're good.
There's always new sports coming in, and snow biking just happened to be one that I was fortunate enough to have different people, different avenues to get into it.
You were kind of an early adapter.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's people earlier than me. The guys who invented timber sled. That guy was kind of revolutionary. There's really interesting videos kind of on the history of snow bikes, and that he's kind of a huge proponent on mass producing and then getting that into everyday people. I think he saw a little area where snowmobiles, there is a lot of technique involved. There is, quite a bit more horsepower, which can make them more fun, but you have to learn how to use it responsibly.
Right.
Or you're just going to end up in a tree or upside down somewhere. There's a lot of things that can happen. So,
explain to those listeners that don't know what a snow bike is. You kind of briefly went over it, but...
So a snow bike is, you're going to take a dirt bike, just whatever dirt bike you have, and snowmobiles have a track system and 2 skis on the front. What a snow bike is you take a track system and you put it on the rear, and then you put 1 ski on the front. So effectively you're riding your dirt bike on the snow, and it actually works really well because you have this big ski on the front and a big old track behind you to kind of push you around through the powder. It's very similar concepts to a snowmobile, just slightly different. The technique itself is different. I kind of like to compare it to snowboarding versus skiing. Each one has their own learning curve to it. Some would argue one way is easier than the other. I think snow bikes are easier for a lot of stuff, but getting to that next level stuff gets a little more technical and hard. But initially, my wife, her first day on a bike, she's ripping out in the field, making turns, having a good old time, where I think a snowmobile, The base level easy stuff, riding the trail, just cruising on the flats, is really easy because it's just a lot more similar to a four-wheeler. They just push the throttle, push the brake, just sit down and have fun. But as soon as you start stepping up into that next level, trying to go off trail, anything off camber, anything in the trees are magnets around here. It's crazy. People just stare at them and go right into them all the time. It's amazing.
fishing clients.
Yeah, all the time. It's I feel like that's half the battle is just pulling people off of trees. I'm like, did you look at it? And they're like, yeah, I looked at it. I'm like, well, and then the snow around trees tends to, we call them tree wells. Basically, the snow around a tree angles in toward the tree because the branches hold the snow away from the trunk. So it's I always say it has its own gravity, but there's an actual reason for that. The tree wells really do pull you in, and so a lot of people end up in the trees. It's just part of it. So in snow bikes, the big difference would be you don't necessarily feel all those because you're on I'm going to just say one-dimensional. You have one point of contact that you're tipping back and forth. So yeah, you can fall over, but you pretty much ride it just like you would a bike. It feels very similar to a bike when you're in the powder. The biggest thing is just keeping on the throttle and everything's momentum and getting the elevation so you can lose it when you need it and kind of keeping that momentum going. So that's huge on anything in the snow, actually.
So those snow bikes, as far as I understand, and I've just kind of heard some discussion around, that's kind of opened up some business doors for you, hasn't it?
Correct. So I started my own business. I've got a couple of business partners. We have a company called Aspire Moto. We do a lot of snow bike stuff in the wintertime.
Find the link in the description.
Yeah, we'll throw a link in there. We definitely are on the smaller end of things as far as business goes. We've got a pretty specific clientele that we like to stick to. That being said, we do normal, just every day, hey, you want to come up and give it a ride? We do all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy working with people kind of more on the professional end of things, your search and rescues, people like that, even militaries, that kind of thing. You're people that come into it with a mentality of, I want to learn how to operate this piece of equipment for a purpose. Those are my favorite kind of people to work with. So search and rescues especially been interested in them. There's been a lot of just the ease of riding one on a base level. Like as you're crossing any hillside, everything just feels like it's flat, always. So as you're riding, it's just easier. So I've been kind of pushing a lot heavier toward that stuff. Obviously, we're a business. We're always there to make money, so we're working with anybody. And then obviously people right off the street want to come in and give it a try. I think it's very helpful if people have prior dirt bike experience or motorcycle experience in general. Just knowing how to run a clutch on a bike is incredibly helpful.
Because you can pop a wheelie on a dirt bike pretty easy. Can you pop a wheelie?
No. Kind of turn my body.
So we're sitting out on the back patio, like I mentioned. We're getting a little bit of wind here, so I'm sorry if you hear a little bit of feedback there.
I have not done an outdoor broadcast before, but we thought it was just so fun and beautiful out here.
Give it a go.
Yeah, give it a go.
Good luck wheeling one. If you figure out how to do one. So Timbersled came out with a new kit this either last year or the year before. They've got their new Riot, which they went to. If you're familiar with snowmobiles, it's an easy ride suspension. Basically, one trailing arm coming back, hooking into the suspension on two shocks. So the idea was the front of it can drop, so you can lift that front feel, and it works pretty well. It's pretty comfortable. They're super squirrely. The Riots are a riot. They are a lot of fun. My personal preference, I like the long tracks. I like the stuff that just can plow through whatever I pointed at, go straight up a hill, whatever I want to go ride. Throw in a bunch of suspension, you start dropping cliffs and start having a good time. So
that's awesome. Man, that's so much fun to be able to just do what you love, talk about the things you love, while still, finding ways to make it profitable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we define here as a lofty lifestyle, is intentionally doing what you love. And, so not everyone profits off of what they love, but you're in a pretty cool situation where you do.
It works out pretty well. Again, it's not always the most glamorous lifestyle. I've definitely, couch surfed plenty in my time.
Right.
And I lived in a buddy's driveway for probably 9 months at one point. Just
like in a trailer,
I built. It was really funny. So I was living in the house. The house ended up selling. So I had a month. they were like, hey, you have 1 month. I looked around for an apartment, couldn't really find anything, turned around and I was like, okay, I got a month, what am I going to do? So I had been building kind of a custom camper for the back of my truck. I had flatbed my Tacoma, which don't ever do it. Just leave it alone. And then I built this custom pop-up camper for it and like moved into it in a month. And it was not done. It was just a shell with some insulation. I had a little heater in there because it was winter.
Right.
So yeah, and then my one buddy and now my business partner, he really bailed me out. He was like, "Yeah, you can park it in the driveway." So I would go inside to his house and shower every night and like sleep in this basically insulated box that had a diesel heater, and that was it. And yeah, it did that for a while, you know, but it's kind of grown since then.
Everything has its trade-off, right?
Mhm.
Well, 'cause you spent a year or two kind of just going around the
Oh, yeah.
states, right?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
These just popped off. I don't know if these are.
It's this.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Ooh,
no
that's
worries.
weird. Anyway, sorry, I just bumped the microphone there. Yeah, I definitely bounced around. So guiding my seasons initially were, I basically had 5-6 months that I would work up in Alaska, and then I would have like 4 to 5 months that I would work in Utah, and that would fluctuate depending on the season. So I usually have about a month to 2 months off a year to just do whatever I wanted. So
Live a lofty lifestyle.
yeah, when that was going on, I just had a shell on the back of my Tacoma, and I built a little platform, had a fridge underneath, battery system, and I would put my dirt bike on the back, and I would just kind of bump around and travel and go hang out with people, see what's around.
Where are some of the funnest places that you, like some of your favorite places that you traveled during that time?
That's kind of a hard one. The East Coast is really interesting. I've done quite a few like Harley trips all over. I've done a couple of coast to coast on Harleys. I just always end up back in Utah. Is the funny thing. I love Utah. It's awesome here as far as the outdoor lifestyle.
Because you have the north that's all
Yeah.
rugged and mountains.
Yeah, and then you got the desert just 3 hours away. I can be to Moab in 3 hours. I can get down to
Round
St.
dunes.
George. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from a motorsports standpoint, Utah, Idaho is what I would consider pinnacle. I mean, I've been through Colorado a bunch, and Colorado is awesome, but as far as my big decision on Utah over Colorado was cost. Colorado is way expensive. So I always ended up showing up for a little bit, being like, oh, wow, there goes my budget. And then, so, I mean, Washington, Oregon, California, basically the whole West Coast. I've been through most of the central U.S. I've done a bunch in the South. Been all over the East Coast. I really like the West, especially anything with mountains kind of just gets me there. I like mountains.
And Harley riding across country. A couple
Yeah, I've done that
times. That's really
twice.
cool.
It's
That's awesome.
coast to coast both times. Virginia to Seattle one time, and then Virginia to San Diego. Don't recommend the Virginia to San Diego one because we did it in the middle of the summer, and it was so hot when we hit the Arizona area. I mean, it was my brother and I, and every time we'd pull into every gas station we saw, we just pull in, we'd go grab 2 liters of water. I would dump one of them on me just to cool off because it's so hot out there, and I was dumb and threw my heavier jacket in the back or at a buddy's house on the way and left it and was trying to ride in a tank top, and it was in the desert, so I'm getting sandblasted the whole time. I was like, oh, this is not the maneuver to be doing right now. So we hit San Diego. We're there for all of probably 12 hours and turned around and went back. We're like, all right,
We're done with that, yeah.
Let's go get cold. This is too hot.
That is
That's
so cool.
funny.
What a cool life.
Yeah, that's
A lot of freedom.
That's a lot of
Lot of
fun to
freedom.
be able to blur that line between, oh, I have to go to work today, or it's like, dude, I'm going out today to do what I love, and you know,
And when I'm done doing what I love,
I go do it for fun.
I go do it for fun and
Yeah.
keep go and doing it and having a couple months off to go.
That is
Do more
really
things.
nice. So it just opens up other hobbies. Like you get to try other things, and
Mhm.
I would view as super important just to stay sane. Because
Right.
when you're working, and I always need the break from snowmobiling at the end of the season. You know, you get done with an end of the season, and you've ridden almost every day for good 5 months, 4 or 5 months. So at the end of that, you're like, all right, I'm done with this. So you pull out the dirt bike, or if you go from snow bike to dirt bike, and you go ride that. We were doing side by sides today, so this summer we're doing side by sides, and those have been a lot of fun. Just very interesting, the dynamic change from guiding snowmobiles all winter to just kind of managing side by sides.
So I want to talk. So just so everyone knows, we Went on about a 4-hour ride this morning. Got some incredible footage that I'm so excited to share with everyone. Some of those things were incredible.
We had Graham's friend Josh, who we probably will have on the podcast. He came down from Alaska. He's got some good, amazing aerials.
He got a crazy.
Yeah, we
story
crashed
than
the
me.
drone.
Awesome.
We crashed the drone into a tree. We looked for about a half hour to find the battery pack that popped out. I mean, we had an incredible time.
It was fun.
You know, I grew up. You know, Jay and I both grew up in this area in these mountains. And, you know, I hiked around a lot of these mountains. Like right now, I hike a lot down in the Salt Lake Mountains. And I have never seen scenery like we saw right now, riding up on those side-by-sides.
It's amazing once you get up in there. The views up here are incredible. I mean, you're up in the mountains, you're up in the, seeing these high alpine lakes. Turn my body a little more here in the wind.
Up a little.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty incredible up here. The wildest part to me is seeing it winter to summer. So I've never seen any of this in the summer until this year. Right. So that was kind of threw me for a loop the first couple of times I went out because everything's so vaguely familiar.
Right, but you're stuck on a trail. You can't ride through everything.
That one's been really hard for me.
The top of that tree.
Yeah, I usually only see the bottom 4 feet. Never the top. Yeah, okay, sure. I see those trees before, but yeah, it's been really interesting. It feels like waking up from a dream and having that deja vu of like, oh, I feel like I've seen this before, but it's just slightly different. It's incredibly beautiful up here. I didn't even realize, and I've been coming here for years, I did not realize how amazing, how many rivers up here, the beaver dams everywhere. I mean, we were kind of hanging out
literally past.
Yeah, we've got
beaver dam.
Some awesome pictures and video to show of this beaver dam that we
They're
were
everywhere here too.
We were parking
it's
there
amazing.
too.
Yeah, just the whole area is so different in the summer. It's incredibly beautiful. I love it here.
I think a lot of people in business, they gauge their success by wealth. And there are a lot of different kinds of wealth. There's finance, there's spiritual wealth, there's all sorts of different kind of things. But I think experiences like these add value to your life.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you're gauging life by the experiences you're having, I mean, you got to be one of the wealthiest dudes I know. Because some of that, I mean, I'm just blown away driving up there on those things.
It's a lot of fun. Definitely financially not the wealthiest dude, but as far as experiences, it's different every time we go out, especially in the wintertime. Always different. That's what I love about the winter. You go out, you see different sights. Everything looks just slightly different. You take a different line that you've been looking at for a couple of weeks. If you're snowboarders, you're skiers, you kind of understand that mentality. Like, oh, I've been staring at that one for a month, and I really just want to go do it. And when you have the opportunity to go out and work all the time, you start scouting all these lines, and then you go out for fun, and you're like, all right, let's get rowdy.
Hit them.
Yeah, you go hit those lines that you can't do in front of people because then other people will try it. So
Don't get hurt.
yeah, you got to lead by example, unfortunately. I can't just, again, the word don't. You got to stay away from that. And part of the word don't is I don't do it myself. Because I'll look at stuff like, oh, that looks so fun. And then I'll go do it. And I've had people try it. Yeah. I've had people try it right after. And there's a huge difference between, this isn't tooting my horn in any way. There's just a difference between people who are doing something every single day versus the people. We get a lot of people that come out for a week at a time, and that's the 1 week of the year that they get a ride. So I mean, I know my riding personally, my first year went up, just skyrocketed, because it was just amazing being on a machine every single day for months, getting that muscle memory, the repetition, just understanding, oh, if I twitch this way, it's going to do this, and you just get a lot more comfortable with it.
Yeah, so when we were out there, just to give a little example, we just got up there pretty early this morning, and Graham's like, dude, hop in this little side-by-side 2-seater. I'm like, okay, let's do this. We're going to splash through this kind of little runoff area on the road. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be kind of fun. And, I drove up there. My wife was in the passenger seat going maybe 25 miles an hour, hitting these little bumps, thinking we're cool. And then Graham's like, hop in, let's go do this. And we hit this corner. We're drifting out the back. And I'm like, holy cow, we are really doing this.
Because we got all the video equipment set up.
Yeah, and so he just is gunning it. We're drifting around these corners, and we hit this pond, or not a pond, but this runoff area. Water splashes up over us. We hit this curve and we go up on 2 wheels on the side. Yeah. I'm like, man, this is it.
We're going.
I'm like, I'm done dead. And then we land back down. I'm like, dude, are you gonna kill me today? And he's like, no. He's like, this is what I do for a living. I'm really good at this. So
I do this every day. It's not even I'm really good at this. I'm just very comfortable. You do it every day, and you happen to have rolled a few, and so you know what. So
I was not comfortable on two wheels. I will say that right now.
I mean, is anyone really comfortable on two wheels? We're on that edge for a little while, and that was a kind of an awkward corner too, because I had to keep it going. So I just held it through the corner. Was like, let's stay that down.
But yeah, that's when I realized very quickly that there's a difference between, okay, this is my first time driving a side-by-side in over a year, to, okay, this guy does it every day and like knows his stuff on how to drive this thing for fun.
Just comfort, repetition, muscle memory, understanding, all the reactions of what's going to happen. So, and that's anybody in any profession, what do you guys do every single day? Whatever you do every day, I guarantee you I'm going to come in and look like a fool trying to do whatever you do, and then you're going to turn around and be like, oh, it's this easy, just done, So just any walk of life is going to have similar results.
I hear the example of like you're a magician and what you do.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like a tax guy and I don't know anything about taxes.
Oh, not my cup of tea.
Like, man, that guy's a magician. So you're definitely a wizard out there on those sides.
It was a lot of fun. You should come up in the winter. We'll have to do another one of these in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
I'm way more comfortable in the winter.
So our Lofty Lifestyles experiences, this was kind of our day one of those. We're going to come up this winter for sure.
Good. We'll get you back out on some snowmobiles.
Go doing some backflips out there on snowmobiles.
I think we'll probably try to get some other people coming up on side-by-sides as well.
Good. Let us know. That's what we do.
We'll rent them out and everything. Dude,
just don't roll them, right?
Just don't roll. Driving. He was drifting every corner.
He was having a good old time. He was cracking me up. He was having fun today. That's good. That's the purpose, right? We come up, we want to have these experiences for people, and that's really what this is an experience. And the lodge that I work at and for, we really promote the experience over just, here is a rental, have fun, see ya. Yeah, and you come up, you get the room, you have breakfast the next morning, you go out, we do horses, side-by-sides in the summer, and then snowmobiles in the wintertime. So it just, the overall experience up here, the vibe, the feel, whatever you want to call it, is definitely geared towards having a good time in a safe, controlled way, and just having fun. That's what we do.
So you've met, backing up a little bit through your business that you do with the snow bikes.
Okay.
You've been able to meet some pretty cool people.
Yeah, we've done quite a lot of really interesting stuff. A lot of people have heard of Snowbird. We've done a lot down with those guys. Those guys are really incredible. I know their ski patrol was really interested in kind of a long run of snow bikes because they have a huge backcountry program down there. So that's kind of where I've been focused a lot more heavily. I would love to see every ski patrol in the nation have one of these if you have any sort of a backcountry program, because as far as, I'll take someone out, give me 4 days to train them, and I'll guarantee that no matter where they're at on your mountain, I will have the guy that I train race you from your normal ski patrol guy, and they'll be there faster every single time. Because there's a huge difference from, if your ski patrol guy's at the bottom of the hill, got to take the ride up. I know Snowbird specifically, they have cat skiing. Cat skiing is awesome, super fun. Anyone gets hurt out there, your ski patrol is how far away? How long is it going to take to get there? So I think that's a huge part of the future for snow bikes specifically. I think they could do a lot more with that. There's easier access. Like I can ride straight across the hill right to someone and be a first responder immediately. And it's just going to be quicker than having to take the cat up, ski down slow, you get the person, you ski them down, and try and get them out that way. And that's an effective way of doing it, and people have been doing it that way for a long time. But, we always need to update our first response. This is part of it. This is where I would like to focus my energy the next couple of years, is trying to get Ski Patrol really into this stuff. So, yeah.
That's a great business model because there's a huge need. And I think it's a little archaic as an industry, a little bit.
Yeah.
You're going to ski down to someone.
By its nature, I would say yes. You're doing something that I don't think people were specifically designed to do. Being bipedal, being able to walk across the ground doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be really good at flying down snow. Just frozen water.
Especially holding someone.
Yeah.
Massively.
So, I think there's a little niche there that can be filled, and that's kind of my direction with all this. I would love to fill that niche a little more and just kind of promote the program, promote the industry, and that just helps everyone across the board,
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. My wife tore ACL skiing this year, had to be sledded down on a toboggan.
Oh, that was fun, I bet.
All the fun stuff. So
straight to the ambulance.
we're at about the time where we are going to go now do another lofty experience and go ride a boat down in
There you go.
Bear Lake with these guys. So it's been awesome talking with you, Graham. Anything else you want to impart upon, say, someone that would be looking to get into the freedom that you have of a lifestyle?
Like I said in the beginning, I think guiding is a incredible way to start off and just figure out what direction in life you want to go. There's a lot of really neat people that do these things. There's a lot of really neat people that you can meet through guiding, and almost everyone I've guided, you end up talking to them for most of the day. You end up, they have so much knowledge that they can impart on you. So I would really highly recommend figuring out if you have a hobby, go and see if you can guide something with it. That would be my recommendation. That's my 2 cents.
That's awesome. Moral of the story is find what you love and go do it.
Yep.
I mean, that's what Graham did.
Go find out how to do it.
And that's what we're trying to promote on this podcast. People finding what they love and do it, whether that's business, whether that's snowmobiling, whether that's real estate. Find what you love and pursue it. That's how we're trying to spread this
Take the
knowledge from
risk.
these people, take the risk, and live a lofty lifestyle. So,
Mhm.
okay, we're gonna wrap up there. I think it was a very cool conversation, a very unique, lifestyle that I think a lot of people would think was really cool, and I think hopefully we can get some people out your way to come see some of this amazing countryside that we live in up here.
Awesome.
So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks to all those who listened. And don't forget, join the club, break the mold, and live a lofty lifestyle.
Thank
Love
you.
it.
Pretty good. Pretty fun, huh?
Yeah, it's
All
fun.
right, now it's 40 minutes gone by.
That was 40 minutes? No way.
40